Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. Do you know who's having an embarrassing week? Hunter Biden. What happens when a news anchor shows up to meet young girls? Well, I'll tell you. Is it just me, or is every married man plotting to have an affair and kill their current wife? The bad breath rapist has been captured, and I have another reason to never fly commercial air travel. And then our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it.
Hi, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't. Hit that like button if you do like our video. Leave me a comment below and hit that little bell for notifications. And remember, yes, you can check us out anytime on any of your favorite podcasting apps. Yes, the Karen retrial is going. We're bringing it to you live. We talked about it last night on our Tuesday Night Live program that we do every Tuesday at 6 p.m. For those that joined us, thanks. For those who haven't, come check us out next week. All right, let's go ahead and get to the docket for today, June 5th, 2024. And first on the docket, yes, who's having an embarrassing week? Hunter Biden. Why, you may ask? Yes, he's obviously on trial for obtaining a firearm and making an alleged false statement because he was, in fact, a drug addict. Hunter Biden has denied that he was a drug addict. In fact, his attorney stated in an opening statement that he was not a drug addict at the time that he purchased the gun. He was only a raging alcoholic, and that's okay. Anyway, Hunter Biden's ex-wife, Kathleen Buell, testified today that she discovered Hunter Biden was using drugs when they were married, and that she found a crack pipe in an ashtray on a porch in their D.C. home as early as July of 2015. She apparently asked him about the pipe, to which he said he acknowledged that, well, hey, babe, I'm smoking crack. Now, Buell testified that she was suspicious he was using drugs ahead of finding the crack pipe because she suspected Hunter was kicked out of the Navy for testing positive for cocaine. She then recalled feeling worried and scared for her then husband, and Buell then testified that when Hunter was using, he was not himself, and he got angry, very short-tempered, and acting in ways that he didn't when he was actually sober. Shocking. Is that what crack does to you? Anyway, she also said that he was smoking crack the day after their anniversary. Well, Ms. Buell further testified that she found a broken pipe with some white powder and white crystals in his car. She said that would occur between 2015 to 2019, and she would search his car for drugs when he would lend his car to her daughter because she wanted to make sure they weren't driving around with drugs in the car in case they got stopped. Anyway, the prosecutors then confirmed that she was still checking the car in 2018, because that's the date of the offense in this particular case, and yes, Ms. Buell said she was. Anyway, the United States attorneys asked if Hunter hid the drug use from his family and friends, to which Ms. Buell responded yes. Now, Buell was called to the stand and was sworn in early this morning, and obviously the prosecutors are laying this out to show that he was a drug-addicted person and therefore not eligible to possess a firearm, and that when he filled out the form, he was not truthful. Now, Ms. Buell has spoken publicly about Hunter Biden's drug addiction and the many affairs, including the one with his sister-in-law, that's right, the widow of his late brother, Beau, Hallie Biden, who is also a witness for the prosecution, who's anticipated to testify that he kind of got her to use crack as well. What a guy. Anyway, Zoe Keston, Hunter Biden's ex-girlfriend, testified under immunity that Mr. Biden would smoke crack every 20 minutes during a trip that they took together in 2018. Now, Keston said that she met Biden in December of 2017 while working at a gentleman's club, and it was a late evening, and she was offered to do one more private dance with Hunter Biden. She said she went into the room with another dancer, and Biden was already in there. But she noted she didn't know who he was at the time, and Ms. Keston said there was no music playing in the club since it was so late. So Hunter pulled out his phone and started playing music from his phone. Now, Ms. Keston said that They went into another room, and Hunter pulled out a pipe and started smoking. She described it as a type of pipe that she had never really seen before, having a weird smell, and that she assumed it to be crack cocaine. Ms. Keston said that Hunter was also drinking alcohol at the time. Now, Ms. Keston said after he started smoking that he was the same charming person. She described Hunter as an incredibly charming and charismatic individual during their interactions. Hunter proceeded to ask her to come back to his hotel room with him, to which she declined, but she did give him her phone number. She said Hunter then texted her the address to where he was staying, but she didn't respond. She said it was a week later that she was online and realized that the man from the gentleman's club was, in fact, Hunter Biden. Anyway, Keston's next interaction with Hunter came around January of 2018, and Keston said one of her friends was with Hunter at the Soho Grand and told her to join them, so she went. Keston said there was a loud rock music playing upon entering the hotel room, and she saw Hunter smoking crack within the first 10 to 15 minutes of her arrival. Now, these three individuals, Hunter, Keston, and another unnamed woman, hung out all day, and they ultimately went to dinner. The unnamed woman left, but Keston stayed. Keston said she stayed at the hotel for 5 days. Now, during that 5-day period, Ms. Keston said that Hunter was smoking crack every 20 minutes, and she added that they would go out in public or to an event. Hunter would smoke crack there once an hour. One night, she said Hunter left for a business dinner, and Hunter's demeanor during this time was charming, and that she never saw an immediate change in his behavior while he was smoking the crack. She also said she felt for him because she knew people with drug addictions. Anyway, she continued to testify to hanging out with Biden other points in 2018, including the meetup in Atlantic City in February of 2018. Yes, this is embarrassing. As you may recall, Hunter Biden had a plea deal worked out. The judge thought it was a little too generous, and so the matter is proceeding to trial. Now, this should be a slam dunk for the prosecution. As you may recall, remember the woman in Virginia, Newport News, that her child took a firearm to school and shot the teacher? Well, this was the same charge that she faced. She pled guilty to it because she smoked marijuana. She was a chronic user of marijuana. You can't be a chronic user of marijuana and have guns. You certainly can't do it when you're high on crack. And the government also played Biden's own words from an audiobook that he read about his addiction issues. And so it's always, once again, ladies and gentlemen, the defendant's own words that come back and bite them in the end. Now, one interesting little note was that, remember the alleged laptop, the Apple laptop that was abandoned at a computer repair store? And it turned out the owner looked at it once he was entitled to take a look at it, and it turned out to be Hunter Biden's laptop, and they turned it over, and it had all these photos and admissions of using drugs and videos. The laptop from hell is what it's been referred to. And everybody said, including 51 people from various intelligence agencies, said that that laptop was nothing more than propaganda. What I want to know is, are those 51 intelligence agents going to be called to testify to the stand to see whether they in fact lied, or if they just put their signature on that, and if so, at whose behest? Now, I'm just joking with you. That's not going to happen. But it is interesting that the FBI said officially, under oath, that that is Hunter Biden's laptop and that it had not been tampered with. That's funny because I thought the Russians had it. I thought the Russians made it all up. Are you starting to get the feeling, ladies and gentlemen, that sometimes the government isn't being completely truthful and honest with us? Just saying. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand Hunter Biden's legal dilemmas. I've represented lots of people in his similar situation. I would not wish a drug addiction on anybody. I have seen it ruin so many lives, and I think most people have seen or know somebody that has had their life impacted through drugs. So I actually wish Hunter Biden the absolute best and that he stays clean and sober, because nothing good comes from smoking crack cocaine. All right? Don't do crack, ladies and gentlemen. I wish him well. We'll give him the presumption of innocence. And hey, he's in Delaware. Maybe the jury will say we feel sorry for him and we don't want him to be burdened by the consequences of having a felony conviction. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Next, what happens to a news anchor who thinks he's going to go meet underage girls? Well, he resigns. That's right, a Louisiana TV news anchor has resigned after allegedly sexting who he believed to be were underage girls. Well, it turns out the KTBS anchor and director of the news, Bill Lunn, L-U-N-N, resigned after being accused of sending a 15-year-old explicit photos and texts. He allegedly arranged to meet up, but was stunned to meet not the underage girl, but 3 men at the other end who said they were orchestrated the whole setup as a predator-hunter scheme. Well, this all took place on May 29th after Lunn called police claiming that he had been the victim of an assault in Shreveport, Louisiana. However, when the police arrived, they determined that there was no assault at all. It turns out that Antonio Coleman, Cameron Kennan, and Coturio Grisby said they had been posing as teenage girls on a dating app, Meet Me, for weeks in a bid to capture suspected pedophiles. They had a conversation going on, and he asked how old the person was. Well, the guys, responded that they were 15 years old. He would send pictures to her, and he was saying he wanted to do some things that I can't repeat on a family program like this on the air, so to speak. Anyway, the men then confronted Mr. Lunn, who reportedly said, "Hey man, I've got a wife and kids," before fleeing the scene and then calling the police. The police arrived at the scene and detained him before releasing him without formal charges. Now, his electronics have been seized as part of the investigation, and an internal probe was launched at his place of business, but he resigned effective immediately. Now, of course, Mr. Lunn's attorney, a guy by the name of Dew Thompson, said that he strenuously denies this wrongdoing, and it is our preliminary understanding that this incident was not the result of law enforcement investigation, but rather done by private individual. Primary concern at this time is that law enforcement receives all evidence surrounding this incident so they can make a thorough and complete review. Now, Mr. Lunn has cooperated with authorities and vehemently denies the allegations of any wrongdoing. I'm curious if maybe he was asked to bring some wine coolers too. Anyway, Mr. Lunn's attorney said it's our hope that after this thorough review of the evidence surrounding this matter, that Mr. Lunn will be shown to be innocent and cleared of all allegations. Very nicely said, Mr. defense attorney, but you know as well as I do, he can still be charged, even though there wasn't police involvement, right? If somebody is sexting your 15-year-old girl, you can take those texts to the police, have that person arrested. They have his phone. I'm sure the truth will all come out. I'm sure he resigned for some other reason, like wanting to spend time with his family, I'm sure. Obviously, Mr. Lunn gets the presumption of innocence, but we'll see how that one plays out. Next on the docket, is it just me, or is every married man plotting to have an affair and kill their wife? It seems like it. Does it not? I don't know. It seems like it. Listen, I'm no teetotaler. I get it. People are going to have affairs, but you don't have to kill the spouse. All right? I'm just going to say it. It's, yes, not good, but don't kill the spouse. Just don't kill the spouse. Okay? Remember, ladies and gentlemen, there's a reason why divorce is expensive, is because it's worth it. Okay? Going to prison the rest of your life, not worth it. So don't kill the spouse. Anyway, we have an update on Dr. James Craig. Yes, the dentist who's accused of lacing his wife, mother of 6 children, who drank potassium cyanide while having an affair with his friend, an orthodontist in Texas. Of course, he's denied the charges, and we'll give him that presumption of innocence. Well, there was a hearing yesterday. They asked that all charges be dropped against the good doctor because of alleged outrageous government conduct. Well, what exactly is that alleged outrageous government conduct? Well, the defense claims that the prosecutor lied to a witness, one of Craig's alleged mistresses, and coerced her into making statements. And the defense wants those statements excluded. Prosecutors claim their motion is motivated by desperation, as the witnesses' claims are some of the most damning evidence in the case. So in their response, they included some of the alleged voice memos between the good doctor and the witness, which appears to show them discussing how the good doctor planned on killing his wife. Ooh, that's going to hurt. That's a bad fact, right? Yeah, it is. So in one message from February 2nd of 2023, reads as follows. Do you know anyone who can help me with my problem down here? I can pay handsomely. I want to be with you. Another one from February 3rd of 2023 said, hitting up a homeless person actually sounds like the only choice right now. And I made $66,000 in January, and I desperately want to share that with you and help you. I feel so trapped. Then in February of 2023, a third one added, I'm looking forward to Thursday night so much. Maybe we can come up with a solution. I love how resourceful you are. I want to bless your life. Now, Craig, the good doctor, is also charged with a felony count of solicitation to commit tampering with physical evidence after it was revealed that he had tried to persuade one of his daughters to dispose of key evidence in the case against him. And the good doctor was also previously accused of trying to convince a fellow inmate at the Arapahoe County Detention Center to plant suicide letters at his house. Yes, wait for this. So the detective testified at the preliminary hearing that she spoke with the inmate who was in a cell near the same Craig as Dr. Craig, but in the same pod. And the detective testified that Craig reportedly told the inmate about his charges and asked them to place letters in his garage and truck at his home. The detective testified that the letters were allegedly written from inside the jail and meant to appear as his deceased wife had written the letters. Now, according to the detective, the letters were meant to show that Angela, the deceased wife who drank the cyanide, was not happy with her life, felt suicidal, and was aware of her husband's affair. The detective also testified that the entire point of those letters being written and spread across the house was so that law enforcement or perhaps the defense attorneys could find those letters and use them at trial. The detective also testified that the accused murderer had offered the inmate free dental work or money in exchange for scattering the letters across the house. I think that's a first. Usually, it's money, right? But free dental work, you gotta love it. Anyway, the inmate obviously didn't go ahead with the free dental work and went to the police instead because, well, apparently that person's freedom is worth more than the dental work. Anyway, but the defense attorney said, hey, they pointed out that the inmate only contacted authorities after Dr. Craig initials preliminary hearing, and it was brought to the attention in the media. Well, it doesn't matter, ladies and gentlemen. That witness is going to come testify against the good doctor. Not looking good. Now, if you may not recall, Angela, the wife, started feeling unwell after she drank a shake that her husband made for her back in March of 2023. And over the next 10 days, she visited a hospital 3 times complaining of nausea and dizziness. And doctors just couldn't figure out what was wrong. And then on March 15th, her brother took her to the hospital again. She had a seizure soon afterwards, lost all brain function, and then ultimately died. And after being arrested a few days after Angela's death, Craig pled not guilty to first-degree murder and tampering with physical evidence back in October of 2023. Now, Craig's latest mistress was an orthodontist out of Marble Falls, Texas, and she flew up to the state to be by his side while his wife was lying in the hospital bed and claimed that she knew nothing of Craig's supposed plan to kill his wife and start a new life with her. Of course she didn't. Of course she didn't. The good doctor ultimately began researching and purchased some poison online and then started giving it to his wife, who was unsuspecting that she was being poisoned. In fact, specifically that she was getting potassium cyanide in her protein shakes. Now, according to the affidavit for arrest warrant, it was at his dental office that the good doctor allegedly researched and purchased poison online. And it was to this address that he had the package containing the potassium cyanide delivered on March 13th. Now, an earlier delivery of arsenic was found to have been made to his home on March 4th. The later delivery raised concerns when a staff member who had not received the message to not open the package from Dr. Craig, or to Dr. Craig, described it as personal package, went ahead and opened it, and could think of no medical reason for this particular purchase. She then Googled the chemical. It was labeled as a biohazard and realized how closely these symptoms of cyanide poisoning somehow mirrored those symptoms that the doctor's wife, Angela, was experiencing. So Craig's then business partner reported the concerns to a nurse at University Hospital. The nurse, in turn, informed law enforcement, setting into motion the investigation that ultimately resulted in the good doctor being arrested. His trial is currently scheduled for August. And hey, I hope it'll be televised. I think it'll be a good one. And it's just down the road. So I'll be able to pop in and see how things are going as well. Next on the docket, what would you do? We talked about this last night on our live, but if you were a juror and someone showed up to your house and said, here's a bag full of money and there's more where this came from, would you take it? Or would you do what this good juror citizen did? She went to the police. That's right. A woman showed up at the juror's home on Sunday and left some money, saying more would be coming if she just vote for an acquittal on the jury trial that she was sitting on. Now, the woman, the mysterious woman, arrived at the juror's suburban house late Sunday night, clutching a bag stuffed with wads of cash that totaled close to $120,000. It was presented to the 23-year-old juror in the Feeding Our Future federal trial. Now, the woman explained to the juror's father-in-law, who answered the door just before 9 p.m. If the juror voted for the acquittal, where 7 defendants are in this fraud case, there would be more of that present tomorrow. The woman then handed over the white floral bag that had hundreds, 50s, and 20s, and that's all according to the FBI. Why do we know that? Because the juror immediately reported the incident to the Spring Lake Police Department and turned over the bag of cash to the FBI, which is obviously investigating the incident. The juror was dismissed And before the juror was dismissed before the jury got together in the Minneapolis courtroom on Monday morning. Needless to say, this was kind of a high-profile case. The prosecutors were not happy, and now they're entering into the 7th week. This is the deliberations were just about ready to begin. Now, the trial is the first of a broader case where the prosecutions have called one of the largest pandemic fraud schemes in the country, in which 70 people received a paltry $250 million, all in the name of feeding the children. Now, according to the search warrant, the woman used the juror's first name, though the name hasn't been disclosed publicly. She's been referred to as the juror number 52. Now, before jury selections, attorneys and the defendants in the case briefly were allowed to see a list of the names and the addresses for all the people that were called to jury duty. Needless to say, bribing a juror is a big deal. That's kind of like killing a witness. You just don't do it. Well, this one only carries up to 10 years in prison for bribing a jury. And certainly goes to the heart of our legal system, does it not? Anyway, as a result of this incident, the judge has now sequestered the jury, which has 12 jurors and 5 remaining alternates. And one by one, the judge questioned the remaining 17 jurors to ensure that no one had contacted them about the case within the last 6 weeks. All those jurors confirmed that they had not. The judge also ordered that the defendants' phones be confiscated by the FBI, and they're to investigate to see if there is a leak of the juror name by one of the defense attorneys or a defendant. We'll see how that goes. Next, the bad breath rapist has been caught. Can you imagine going through life with the stigma? I mean, yes, it's terrible to be a rapist and to be on the run, but to be described as the bad breath rapist? Oh my God, this guy should have driven off of a cliff or something with that rap sheet, so to speak. Anyway, a fugitive dubbed the bad breath rapist has been arrested in San Francisco after 16 years when he fled following being convicted, but didn't show up for sentencing for a case that he had back in Massachusetts. So Toon, T-U-E-N, Kit Lee, L-E-E, was found guilty back in 2007 for kidnapping and rape of a young woman at knife point at her home in Quincy, which is apparently near Boston. Anyway, the U.S. Marshal Service said in a statement that he went on the run before he had been sentenced. Hence the reason why, after you're convicted, you usually get remanded, particularly on a kidnapping sexual assault. I can't believe the judge allowed him to stay on bond. Police and the marshals kept the case alive. They have aired many times on America's Most Wanted, trying to find Mr. Lee. And after some images surfaced on social media of a man to be believed to be Mr. Lee investigators were able to track him down to California, particularly to the Contra Costa County. Anyway, the U.S. Marshals and police officers arrested Mr. Lee on Tuesday after seeing him and a woman leaving a multi-million-dollar residence. After his car was pulled over, Lee initially provided a false name, but confessed when pressed about his true identity, and then they confirmed it through fingerprints. Now, his female companion of some 15 years says she had no idea that he had these issues going on back in Massachusetts. And I'm sure if she did, she would not have dated him. The question is now, will she stand with him? Because she knows the true man that he is. Or is he just a big liar, liar, pants on fire? Anyway, it was alleged and proven to a court of law that Mr. Lee broke into a victim's home back in February of 2005, and he sexually assaulted her. He was ultimately identified by DNA and his horrible breath, which produced the nickname, obviously, the Bad Breath Rapist. Anyway, Mr. Lee was being held by police in California, and he's going to go back to Massachusetts. That's right, and be sentenced. Somehow I think he's not going to get a bond this time. Don't give him a bond. Please, don't give him a bond. And by God, give him a breath mint. Please. Who wants to show up for sentencing with bad breath? And yes, another reason why not to fly commercial air travel. Now, I get it. You say, Scott, that's terrible. You sound like some sort of elitist. No, I'm not. But I've had to fly commercial lately because Crime Talk 1 has been in the shop for 3 months, but I think we're just about done. 3 months, ladies and gentlemen. But flying commercial is the worst. It is a cattle call. A cattle call these days. It is horrific. Anyway, here's another reason. People are going to steal your bags. So a young woman that flew on Spirit Airlines had her luggage stolen. She found out that it ended up in a house in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And coincidentally, an airport employee has been arrested and charged with grand theft. Paula Garcia stood at the carousel at Terminal 4 at the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport waiting for her luggage to arrive. Needless to say, it never came. She became panicked. Why? Because she's a student. Her computer was in there. She has tests coming up. So, anyway, Ms. Garcia said that she always carries her pink hardshell suitcase on board with her, but this time she said she was forced to check it, and the suitcase never arrived at the conveyor belt. That's because, as she was waiting, according to the arrest affidavit, a guy that worked at the airport, a guy by the name of Junior Bazil, apparently had her suitcase in the back of an airport resale store where he worked. Now, pictures obtained as part of the investigation show him rummaging through her luggage. The police report say that he took the MacBook computer and other items out and then placed Garcia's suitcase in a clear plastic bag. Specifically, he stole a MacBook, 2 Apple Watches, an iPad, jewelry, and designer clothes that were all taken from the suitcase. Now, back in the terminal, unaware of what was taking place, Spirit Airline employees told Ms. Garcia not to worry. We sent your luggage to your house. So give them their address and see what happens. But the next morning, her Apple Watch was sending a signal, but not from the airport. So what did she do? She went to the house. Not good. Scary. Anyway, she went there, contacted the police. The police said, hey, you shouldn't do this. Call the police. But you know as well as I do, if she hadn't gone there, the police would be like, yeah, whatever, and we'll get to you like in 2 weeks. Needless to say, the police go in. They talk to Mr. Bazil's mother. She becomes uncooperative when basically she finds out that her son may be stealing people's luggage from the airport. Well, needless to say, Mr. Bazil was arrested for grand theft. Just another reason not to fly commercial, ladies and gentlemen. And then finally today, our dumb criminal of the day. Please meet Jesse James Hall. When your family names you Jesse James, you know you're going to have a life of crime. Jesse James Hall. He is accused of 1 count of burglary of an unoccupied conveyance while unarmed, thank goodness, resisting without violence, and providing false information to a police officer. So about 4:40 a.m. on Sunday, the owner of a BMW called police to report that she heard her car alarm was blaring, and she went outside to see what was going on. The victim then approached her car, opened the door, at which point the subject then grabbed her arm. Well, it turns out when she opened the driver's door with her left hand and tried to turn the ignition on with her right hand, the victim stated that's when she tried to turn on the vehicle, that she was grabbed by the male who was in the front passenger seat of the car. Thank goodness the victim broke away and proceeded back into her residence, and she called the police. They arrived shortly. They find Mr. Hall. They make contact with him, about 4:47 in the morning to be exact, and they found him outside the BMW, still in the woman's driveway, but without a shirt on. When asked to put his hands up, the defendant allegedly gave chase and ran a short distance until he surrendered, finally at gunpoint. And then, of course, he asks, "What did I get the cops called on me for?" That was my first thought, Mr. Hall, Jesse James Hall. You mean it's illegal to sleep in other people's cars without permission? Oh, my God. Jeez. Anyway, the police found that Mr. Hall had a black Nokia phone, and he later admitted that it was his, and that was found in the car, and that was his, and must have dropped it when he was trying to get away. The key fob-like taser turned out to belong to the woman as well that was on his person. Now, at first, Mr. Hall gave his fake name and produced no records, but then they later found out that through his fingerprints, he was recently escaped and is supposed to be serving a 7-year sentence in prison for 2 counts of, wait for it, grand theft auto, and several drug crimes. Can you imagine? He was escaped and he was trying to steal a car? And I thought when everyone goes to prison, those leopards always change their spots. Or is it past performance is indicative of future results? I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know. All right. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk. And remember, yes, that Constitution, it does matter.